Hi, everyone. This is David. Sorry for the delay. My Blue Yeti went out and I have switched to my Snowball mic. Welcome, everyone, to this live stream on Wednesday, January 26th. It's great to have everyone here, and let's go ahead and get started. This week's topic comes from a discussion that we began last week on theoretical and conceptual frameworks, and definitely need to continue this week as promised. With that as background, let's go ahead and get started. So, conceptual framework in 3 easy steps. Yeah, definitely. Why not? Let's go ahead and reduce this as to make it simple and approachable, shall we? First question that came up last week that I want to address is, do I always have to have a theoretical framework? And there are two possible answers to that question. The first one is no. There are plenty of times, especially in quantitative research studies, when the hypothesis and your empirical investigation of that hypothesis are sufficient. A background theory or a conceptual framework are not necessarily needed. There are times when, even in qualitative studies, that a literature review can establish both the problem and the rationale for the investigation to an extent that it is not necessary to promulgate, put forward, discuss, define a specific theory. There are also times when, yes, a theoretical framework or conceptual framework is necessary. This happens especially whenever you have a large set of data, especially a large set of data with a lot of independent variables. And those independent variables need to be limited in their scope and in their impact. And a theoretical framework is one way of doing that. There are also times when you are researching a topic, and that topic has been the subject of a number of studies for a long time. And therefore, you need to define a unique and shall we say fresh viewpoint. Because of the amount of literature on it, you need to define your particular slant toward that particular topic. And then, of course, probably the most common reason for saying, yes, I must have a theoretical framework is because you are required to have one. Many programs on the master's and doctoral level want to assure that its graduates are fluent in all of the different tools they may need during their academic career. So that is another compelling reason why you need to have a theoretical concept. All right, let's talk first about what the purpose of these theories are. The first is that it establishes the feasibility of your study. In other words, if you can identify a theory that appertains to that subject, then that in itself helps to justify the study. But also in this question of feasibility is the idea of, do you have a feasible, workable means of evaluating and understanding the data, the concepts, the ideas that you are about to present? Another is that it justifies your methods. Actually, the theory comes first and then the methods flow from that theory. The two are, in essence, dependent upon each other. Therefore, a theory is the kind of framework or underpinning of the methods that you will employ. They must be simpatico to the extreme. Here is a table of how some of these ideas are the nexus between your study that you're doing, the discipline it represents, and a possible theory. For example, you see first that here is a possible thesis or dissertation on school culture and how organizational changes take place within that school culture. This paper study is being done for uh, the anthropology department at a particular school. So, therefore, what theory would you bring to bear? How about Goodenoug's theory of culture? So that particular theory of culture becomes the lens are the way that you see data in that particular study, and how you also evaluate and explain and understand data and ideas that flow from them in that particular study. Next one, comprehensive state election reform. Sorry about that. Comprehensive state election reform policy. Well, certainly that falls in the area of political science. How will we understand this state election reform policy, our need for it? How will we evaluate it? How will we collect data about it? We will use a particular theory. In this case, the theory is the arena model of policy innovation. It doesn't belong to a particular person. That means a number of different people or researchers, I should say, have developed this theory, expanded upon it, and also used it. Here's a third one. The study focus is mentoring African American women in their postdoctoral studies. That would be a sociology topic. Now, we can view this mentoring through a variety of lenses. One would be leadership. The other might be a social cues or a social reform type lens. But then the one that is being chosen here is Black feminist thought that is associated with one particular originator of that theory named Collins. So these are just some examples of how you want to match up a theory to your study in a way that supports that study, that provides a solid basis for that study. Moving on now, I want to discuss something that came up last week and I think was a cause of some confusion, and that is the difference between a theory and its framework. Oftentimes, I heard last week the phrase theoretical framework being used when it meant only the theory. In the same way with conceptual framework, it was being used to denote only a concept or only a theory. Theory and framework, concept and framework are two very different things, and that's important to understand. Let's try to break them down a little bit here. First comes the theory. That's what you focus on first, not the framework, but the theory. That theory you want to be appropriate for your discipline, you want to be appropriate for your study topic, and you want to be appropriate for the different variables that are going to be involved in that study. You want to make sure that you have the ability to apply that theory in a way that takes place in a kind of not effortless way, but a way that works. Ease of application, I think, basically comes down to this idea of whether or not it works. And it works at the beginning, in the middle, and all the way through. My webcam is jumping all over here. Just a second. Okay, that helps a little bit. And then we want to make sure that theory has enough power to it, enough substance, that it is appropriate enough that it's going to provide explanations, it's going to provide predictions, and it's going to provide a basic understanding of the data and the concepts and how they relate to each other. So the theory comes first. And once you have that theory, then you can write a framework for it. A framework is constructed around the theory. A framework is your way of presenting your theory. And as a result, the framework has a purpose whenever you write it. It is to introduce that theory and to describe that theory. It has a second purpose of defining relevant terms and concepts for your audience. It also has the purpose, this framework, of demonstrating your fluency with the theory. You know its background, you know its uses. You can talk intelligently about how appropriate the theory is for your study. and what use you're going to make out of it. So the framework becomes your way of convincing your readers that the theory you have chosen is something that you're fluent in, is something that is appropriate for your topic, and is something that is going to work for your topic to explain and provide an understanding of what you are about to discover. Also, the framework you should know is not something that you're going to find in the literature. A framework is something that you, the researcher, the dissertation or thesis writer, it's something that you must compose. And you compose it by answering or addressing the three areas directly above it. So first you choose a theory, and once you're convinced of the appropriateness of that theory, you then write a framework that as its purpose presents that theory. Where do you present it? The theoretical framework appears early in the proposal or the dissertation because it provides a foundation for it. It provides a framework for the entire study issue, the entire study project. So that is one very important reason why any kind of framework that you're writing comes first, because it provides the structure on which the other things rest. Now, here's something else that was confusing, or was confused, I should say, in our last session. And that is, there is a difference between a theoretical framework and a conceptual framework. Although you often hear the terms used interchangeably, confusion can happen because of how they are used loosely. So let's define the difference between a theoretical framework and a conceptual framework. You now know what a framework is, right? It is the thing that contains the theory. It is the thing that contains the framework. So let's define the difference. A theoretical framework is built around a single theory. That is its probably most defining characteristic. That one theory becomes your primary, sometimes sole means of investigating, understanding, explaining, predicting all of the data that you are dealing with. That one theory. And a theoretical framework can be found in both qualitative and quantitative studies. Now, that theoretical framework is different than a conceptual framework. Whereas a theoretical framework was based upon one theory that was used throughout the study, a conceptual framework is more than one theory and any other supporting concepts. So when should you have a theoretical framework? When you're dealing with only one theory. When should you have a conceptual framework? When you're dealing with more than one theory or supporting concepts. Why do you sometimes have a conceptual framework as opposed to a theoretical framework? Why do you sometimes have two or more rather than just one? Because of the complexity of the study. And therefore, you need more than one to adequately understand and to show the relationships among the theories and the concepts that you are dealing with. A theoretical framework is found in both quantitative and qualitative. However, a conceptual framework is found mainly in qualitative studies. Because the studies in psychology, social sciences, political science, economy, economics, because they are more complex and have more variables, the researcher often needs more than one theory or concept to deal with the data. So whether you have a theoretical framework, one theory, or whether you have a conceptual framework, more than one theory, they both serve the same purpose. They both exist in order to make your assumptions explicit. They both exist so that you can group together and identify Theories force you to identify the key variables, both independent and dependent, in your study. Another really important one is that the existence and the use of that theoretical or conceptual framework serves to connect your study to existing knowledge. And it's that doorway into existing knowledge that allows you to find your place, your research gap within. Also, the theoretical and conceptual framework also provides you a basis on asking questions such as why and how that lead to the more profound or important um, conclusions, variations, results, and implications of your study. Now, how do you come up with either a theoretical or a conceptual framework? It can be done in 3 easy steps. This does not have to be that difficult. And these are steps that we have already covered in our live chats. The first step is to define. What are you defining? You're defining your thesis title. We covered this, and how important it is to nail down that 15 to 20 word problem that tells the who, what, when, where, and why of the research study. You want to make sure that you have a solid research problem that is expressed in a research question or a research question and sub-questions. Next, you identify your key variables, being either dependent or independent. And once you have identified and grouped those key variables, then you simply match the variables that you're dealing with to any theory that you found. You can find theories in literature reviews, not very often. More likely, you can find theories in course readings and textbooks that you can then go and use to find more about. Let me show you a really great resource. Excuse me here. Let me show you a really great resource. Check my messages, making sure everything's come through. Okay. Hi, Jason. Hi, Tabitha. Dennis Shao. Thank you. And Jason, thank you for that question. I'll get to it in just a moment. So I was just checking to make sure that my mic is still working. I've been having mic problems. Okay, I found a really great resource for you. And that resource is Theoretical Frameworks in Qualitative Research. It's a 300 plus page book that cost about $50 on Amazon. But don't worry, I found a way to download a PDF of the entire book, and I put that PDF on my web server, and here's the link to it right here. I'm going to click on this link, and let's see, you should be able to see it. Let me ask if you're seeing this resource now. Okay, it looks like you're not seeing it. So let me share that particular screen. Had it, but it went away. Let me open it up again. Okay. All right, here's the PDF. You should be seeing it now. The PDF consists of 304 pages, and I want to tell you a little bit about this PDF. The authors, who are professors at the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, invited 19 different researchers to submit chapters. And each of those chapters consists of these 6 items right here. Whenever you download this PDF of this book, you're going to find in each of those 19 chapters, first, that author's overview of the study and a discussion of the theoretical framework and how it fulfilled that author's purpose, research questions, methods, findings, and conclusions. Next, you will find a detailed description of the theoretical framework that author used. Next, you will find a description of how that researcher went about finding that theoretical framework and what convinced him or her that it was the one most appropriate for use. You're also going to find out what happened after the researcher applied the theoretical framework to the study, how it contributed to the design and the analysis of the data. You will also see that author talk about other conceptual frameworks considered. And I think this is one of those times where an author is using a conceptual framework and a theoretical framework to refer to the same thing. Just call it a framework. Other frameworks considered and why they were used or discarded. Remember, a theory is a part of a framework. First comes the theory, and to present it, you write the framework. So this is a little bit of a loose use of the word framework here. And finally, any other additional issues. So I think you're going to find this a really great resource because you're going to be put inside the brains of these 19 researchers who studied and published and graduated because of the studies that they did. It's great to see how these people dealt with the same problems you are dealing with. One other resource for you. I encourage you to go to your school and to find specific examples of dissertations and theses. Here is one from the University of Plymouth in the UK. I have put it on my web server and you can download it and look at it if it applies to you. But the best thesis and the best sample dissertation that you can get is the one that you find from your department that addresses the particular needs or demands that are requirements that you will find in your particular department and school. Bottom line, before you write anything, go and find sample dissertations and theses from your school, your department, your discipline, and study them. Doing that will answer a lot of questions for you. Okay. I need to go back and to share. Okay, I think I might, yeah. Again, I think we're back. Yeah, we're back sharing the PowerPoint now. So there's the link for the second edition of Theoretical Frameworks and Qualitative Research by Anfera and Mertz. And here is a link to a sample dissertation. I'm just putting it out there just to indicate that you need to go find your own sample. Okay. Okay, let's get into the questions, shall we? All right. Tabitha, great to have you here. Missed you last week. Dennis Shaw, I don't think you've been here before. Great to have you here. Okay, and here we have some questions. Let's put up Jason's questions. Hi, doctor. If a study focus has multiple theories, how to justify which theory to use? Can research gap be one of the justifications? Let me answer the second question first, Jason. I don't know on the second question. That is something that you would have to work out with your research advisor. A lot would depend, I would imagine, on how you're going to finesse it. I can definitely see cases where the research gap uh, would be a part of, excuse me, let me reverse that. I can definitely see a case where you're justifying your choice of that theory would be a part of your discussion of the research gap or the research need that you are fulfilling. I can definitely see that. Now, back to your first questions. If a study focus has multiple theories, okay, I think you meant, and correct me if I'm wrong, if a study focus has multiple possible theories, because your study is either going to have one or your study is going to have more than one. And you've got to decide whether you're going to go with one or more than one. Your second question, which theory to use? You don't have to use just one, Jason. You can use more than one theory. If you use one theory, you present it in what's called a theoretical framework. You write the framework for the one theory. If you use more than one theory, you present those theories in what is called a conceptual framework. The difference between a theoretical framework and a conceptual framework: theoretical framework is focused on a single theory. A conceptual framework is focused on more than one theory. Okay. Jason, if you have any follow-ups, please feel free to post them. Muhammad. Oh, thank you. Well, you're welcome, Muhammad. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate it very much. Mr. G, hey, great to see you from last week. Here's a question from Alfred. Alfred asks, how do I describe a theory in relation to the variables I chose for the study? Can I pick a theory from information system for a study in teacher education? Alfred, let me answer the second question first. You can pick any theory you want as long as it is appropriate, as long as it helps you to organize and explain the variables and to understand the data. You can choose any theory you want. Now, whether or not your thesis committee or your supervisor requires you to have a theory from one particular field, that's something entirely different. Now, let's answer the first question. How do you describe a theory in relation to the variables? It sounds like that you're really asking, where do I describe the theory? You describe the theory whenever you present it in your framework. How do you describe it in relation to your variables? You describe why and how the theory is appropriate for your variables. Why that particular theory has been shown to be a legitimate lens for understanding the relationship between those particular variables. Let me also mention at this point to everyone, a theory is nothing more than a set of prescription lenses. You've got a set of data out there. And whenever you choose a theory, you look around and you choose a particular set of glasses with a particular prescription or with a particular tint to them. And then when you grab that theory and you start to use it, you are now looking through a particular lens. This lens gives you a particular focus or slant or viewpoint. And that's all that a theory is a way of looking at, understanding, and dissecting the data. Alfred, if you have follow-up questions, please let me know. Okay, Mohammed, request to share link of PDF. Mohammed, did you see the links? I think I was sharing something else at that time, and you should now be seeing the links to the 2 PDFs that I uploaded for you. Let me know if you do not. Jason, here you go, guys. You have to tell me what you mean by that, Jason. Okay. Alfred, anyone here who cares for a collaborative study on topic? Oh, you're looking for a research partner. Fantastic. We have some excellent researchers here, very smart people who are enrolled in some outstanding programs internationally, from Sweden to China. A question from Mr. G. If you please allow me, how to introduce the research paradigm in qualitative research. Okay. Mr. G, you're using the word paradigm. I think that must be a word that your professor is using. Is that correct? Because I think paradigm here is a synonym for framework. A paradigm is simply an organizational tool for a number of elements that coexist in relationship to each other. So I'm assuming that you have more than one theory, and those theories exist in relationship to each other in a particular paradigm. One goes here, one goes there, da-da-da-da-da-da. But research paradigm, I think, is a synonym for theoretical framework, or if you have more than one theory, conceptual framework. Mr. G, let me know whether or not that is the case. Jason, thanks for clarification. Can I say that both the theoretical framework and conceptual framework is similar in nature, but is more in depth and complexity? I think you can say, Jason, that they are quite similar in that both present a framework for a theory or theories. And remember what you do in a framework. Remember the purposes of a framework. Here they are right here. You have 4 purposes in a framework. So whether it's a theoretical framework or a conceptual framework, they both achieve those 4 different goals. Now, depth and complexity, I would not necessarily say that a conceptual framework has more depth and complexity than a theoretical one. It certainly has more variables. It certainly has more aspects. If it has more than one theory, it has in concept. It's certainly different in that way. But single theories can be quite in depth. Single theories can be quite complex. So I'm not sure I'm really on board with the kind of blanket statement, a conceptual framework is more complex than a theoretical framework. I'm not quite on board with that. To me, the difference is theoretical framework, one theory. Conceptual framework, more than one theory. Period. Mohammed, yes, Alfred, one of my classmates working on collaborative leadership. Okay, so you might want to put them in touch with each other. Okay, what other questions do we have here? Mr. G, did I answer this question? Yes, I think I did. I think I did. Oh, I see now that I didn't answer it completely. In other words, should you introduce your research paradigm in qualitative research any differently than you do in quantitative research? I don't think so. Mr. G, can you tell me whether or not, it looks like you have an initial question here, Mr. G. It's Mr. G, you're saying, let me put this up. You're expecting an answer to the first question. I'm sorry to have to ask you to do this, but can you repeat that first question? I seem to have lost it here. Mohammed writes, how do we write the theoretical framework? Here are the 3 steps. Here they are. First, make sure you have a thesis title and your research problem. If you want to run them by me, that's fine. I would encourage you to run them by your supervisor. Then you identify and group the variables into their dependent and independent categories. Then you go and find a theory, and you'll find those theories sometimes in lit reviews, not that often, but more often, supposedly you have a textbook that presents a number of theories in your particular discipline, and you choose the one that makes the most sense to you. Now, again, let's go back and review framework. Mohammed, here's the real answer to your question. When you write your framework, you want to introduce and describe the theory that you're using. So you would say, in this study, the blankety blank theory applies most appropriately and constructively to the research problem. This blankety blank theory can best be understood via its key concepts. These concepts are 5 in nature. Concept number 1 has to do with feminism. Feminism is defined as da 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 da. So those are the 2 things that you must do in setting up your framework. But you also want to, as you're discussing that framework, discuss how you're going to use it. Whenever you're writing, and I don't know what phase you're in, Muhammad, but whenever you're writing your proposal, you write your proposal in sections, right? And this theoretical framework is simply a section of your proposal. It is more or less a standalone document. Uh, this is a case, Mohammed, where getting sample research theses and dissertations from your school will really help to answer the mechanics of this particular question. You really have to see what has been done before you so that you can replicate it using your own materials. Um, you're welcome, Mohammed. You're welcome very much. Okay, another question from Jason. Throughout my literature review or reading, I found the article I read, I think he meant the articles. I found the articles I read do not have the diagram framework. That's right. They rarely do. They rarely do, Jason. You have to go looking for the theories. I agree with you. But to be sure, I would prefer to see the base model of the theory. How do I find it? Jason, you must go and find where that theory originated and find a discussion and a presentation of it And you can do that via your textbook. You can also do it via the internet. For example, what theory are you working with, Jason? Tell me the theory and we can do a quick little workshop on it. Alfred, grateful for the response. Can you connect me to a partner or link where I can get collaborators? Jason, I wish I could. I really do. I wish I had a large enough network that I could just pluck someone out for you and do it. I would recommend that you join the site LinkedIn. Do you know LinkedIn, Alfred? Here, let me type it in for you. Well, this is really throwing me off, guys, not having my microphone. I tested my microphone 5 or 6 times prior to this chat. And the instant that I went live, I got the message, your microphone is no longer connected. Never buy a Blue Yeti mic. Okay, here's the site I think you should join. I think if I just put LinkedIn. .com. No, it doesn't. Okay. So Jason, economic development with unlimited supplies of labor, the Manchester School. Jason, that looks like a research article. So you're saying that in this research article, oh, he's the original author of the theory. Okay. In a second, I gotta block somebody. Okay, Jason, he's the original author of the theory. Great. Now, why don't you go find where that person originally proposed that theory? Was it in this article here, Economic Development with Unlimited Supplies of Labor? Once you get a name of that theory, Jason, that is when you're good to go. Do you have a name for the theory? Okay, back to Muhammad. Was it Muhammad? No, it was Alfred. I'm sorry, Alfred. Yeah, Alfred. If you look in the chat window, you'll see the name of a site. It's called LinkedIn.com. You can join LinkedIn.com. It is a network of professionals. A lot of them are in business, but there are also many who are in research positions. And you can filter your results by country. In other words, you can find LinkedIn members who live in Ghana. And LinkedIn members are verified, so there's not a lot of crazy social media kind of stuff. These are professionals, verified, who are there for the professional relationships that and learning opportunities that are provided on LinkedIn. We call it the Lewis model. Okay. The Lewis model of what, Jason? There it is. I've got Lewis model economics. Okay. Let me share my screen with you and you'll see how easy that was. Okay, Jason, you should be seeing the results of my search. I simply searched on Lewis model economics. Another name for this model is called the dual sector model. And here are a lot of articles about it. Now, you can often a place like Wikipedia is a good place to begin because you get an overview of the model, but more importantly, come the references at the end. And in these references, yeah, you find things like look at this study here from Douglas Gollin, the Lewis model, a 60-year retrospective. Here's one by Gary Fields, Dualism in the Labor Market, a perspective on the Lewis model after a half century. So those are excellent resources to read more about and become more expert on the Lewis model. Okay, I hope I successfully shared those. Okay, Mr. G. How did that work for you, Jason? Mr. G, I have 6 independent variables that are ambiguous. They have been given several interpretations. Do I have to mention all those? Now, I think you're confusing definitions with interpretations there. Do I have to mention all those definitions in my conceptual framework? Whenever you say to mention all those definitions, I don't know whether you're referring to, do I have to mention the variables or do I have to mention the interpretations of the variables, Mr. G? I don't know which one you're referring to. When you say definitions, do you mean the definitions of the variables or do you mean the interpretations of the variables? I'm beginning to see, this is my second week of working with you guys on this particular aspect of research. Vocabulary is the key issue here. Some terms that are used for several different meanings seems to be a problem. Synonyms that are more or less precise for the thing that you wish to describe. I'm beginning to see vocabulary. And one of the values of our being together and me hearing your questions is that I can kind of hopefully get us together on a common set of terms to use to describe these things. Okay, here we have Rama. How can I give a proper title to my research any topic? Now, Rama, I went over titles in a previous chat. It was in the research proposal. If you look on my list of my videos on my channel and you look at the live chat on how to write your research proposal, we spent, I guess, 10, 15 minutes on titles, just on titles. So I would encourage you to look at that particular chat. Basically, a title must be between 15 to 20 words long, Rama, because it must contain the who, what, when, where, and why of the study. That's why academic research articles have such long titles. Okay, here we are with Jason. Oh, here's Mr. G. I refer to the definitions of the variables. Excellent. Okay. So let me go back to the question. The question was, do I have to mention all the definitions in the conceptual framework? Yes. Yes, you do. Absolutely, Mr. G. Yes, you do. So thank you for clarifying that, Mr. G. I can't imagine your presentation of the variables in this particular framework section without you defining them. Jason, I agree with you, doctor. My lecturer told me that income, salary, and wage, while look for me are different me. Yes, that is, yeah, I agree with that totally. Yeah, income, salary, and wage are very different. Yeah, wage was something like per hour. Salary is something you get paid on a um, usually a weekly or monthly basis, sometimes a yearly basis. Income is your total receivables from all sources: wage, salary, independent contracting, gifts, etc. In America, taxpayers must file what is called a wage and salary statement. So if the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service in America, are calling them two different things, you can believe they are two different things. And the income is the total amount at the end of the year. Or you could say the total amount at the end of the month. But the income implies money received from a variety of sources. Okay, good questions. Okay, Natalie, hello. Natalie, I'm just catching this live post. I missed a lot. Okay, no worries, Natalie. Each live stream is made into a video as soon as I click on end broadcast. And these live streams can be found on my channel. Let me go ahead and share my screen and I will show you where the live chats can be found. So I'm now sharing my entire screen. Here we go. Let me go to my channel, my YouTube channel, and I'll show you where they are. So here's my channel. Here are you probably won't see the channel analytics, but you go to videos, and here are the most recent videos in this top thing. So that is where this video will be posted, Natalie, right here. As you can see, we're currently live, and as soon as I click end, it will turn into a video just like these others. Okay, hope that helps. Smiling. I say you're welcome. You're welcome, Natalie. You're welcome, Rama. Rama said thank you. Thank you, Rama, for coming along and adding to our conversation today. It's always great when different people have these questions because the other participants get to see things from a wider perspective and might hear definitions and terminology and insights that they didn't think to ask about, but nonetheless will be valuable to them. Okay, what else do we have here, folks? Oh, that's the wrong thing to share, isn't it? Let's try that again. Okay, that's a little bit better. One last question from first, uh, Mr. G. Oh, Algeria. Hey, well, great to have you, Mr. G. Hope it's not too late for you in Algeria. What's about, what, 7, 8 o'clock p.m. your time? And I'm glad you found the advice helpful, Mr. G. Okay, Jason, what is your topic? Good question. The topics that I've been asked to present on, Jason, the one that's coming up is how to write an academic essay. Now, if you wish to propose another topic, if there's something that comes out of this discussion, in other words, questions that haven't been answered, by all means, Jason, go ahead and let me know about it here in the chat, or you can also post a comment on my channel. Tosef, hi Tosef. I'm writing my PhD thesis, and as part of my theoretical framework, I've listed 6 theories. Okay, if you have 6 theories, Tosef, it is no longer a theoretical framework. It is a conceptual framework. A theoretical framework is one theory. A conceptual framework is more than one theory. So you have 6 theories. These 6 theories are on technology adoption. Oh, and you've decided to, I should have read on, I'm sorry, Tosef. You've decided to use only one. That's great. Therefore, you are writing a theoretical framework. Can the panel ask me? Yes, they will definitely ask you why you chose this one and not the other one. That is one of the most common questions in a thesis defense, without the shadow of a doubt. Now, one of the resources that I have for you, we'll get to it here for you, Tosef, is this one right here. Look at this right here. Look at number 5. In each of these 19 chapters on this free PDF book that I'm providing you, the authors discuss, the researchers, I should say, discuss why they chose the theory that they chose and why they discarded other ones. And by reading what these other researchers did, you will have ample ammunition to help you in your defense. I feel certain. Okay, well, I hope that helped. We're at the top of the hour now, so I will go ahead and close this out. Thank you, everyone who came by. If you have any lingering questions, feel free to post them on my channel in the community area. I'll be notified immediately and answer them just as soon as I can, certainly within 24 hours or less. In the meantime, if you have any topics for our chat next week, please let me know. I'm happy to cover them. And finally, thank you all very much for coming by and being a part of this learning experience for students literally all over the world, provided to us for free by YouTube. Okay, talk to you guys later. You're welcome, Tosef.